We started the garden route proper, staying in a citrus farm, which was absolutely exquisite, and it gave you an idea how lovely it must be to live here. The rooms were huge and palatial, and we ate outside. It was absolutely lovely. You could just relax here and not care about anything. That's the inside of my little room. Unfortunately, I locked myself in. Then we headed off along the garden route, and the landscape was very English in many respects. Then it got more mountainous, again very beautiful. It was a few hours drive, and then we got to a place called Tsitsikama, and we stayed at a lovely holiday village, Tsitsikama Holiday Village, which had been made specially, and it looked like something out of Westworld, on a colonial style. Absolutely lovely. And as you can see, the rooms were all individually designed, very spacious, and I was staying in top of what was like a sort of Barbie type house. You looked out on a balcony on a pond with a stream. It was just so lovely and warm and comfortable. Didn't really want to leave. We had 2 nights there, and it was an entire complex with a lovely bar, fabulous pool, and then outside on the main part of the village, again it was like a little model village. There was a burger bar designed in a very 1950s American retro style with antique bikes and Cadillacs to just look around. Food was really good, and it was incredibly cheap as well compared to the UK. And then outside there was no end of adventures you could do, like zip wires and high wire and segways, and altogether just an absolutely exquisite place to be in. Then, next day, we went to the coast to the Storms River mouth, and the waves were just unbelievable. There's no way you could swim or anything like that, but the whole area was packed with holidaymakers staying in caravans, camping, and also in holiday cottages, which we were supposed to have stayed in, but I'm glad we stayed in the little village. But you could go out and do kayaking, believe it or not, in the mouth of the inlet where it wasn't so fierce and stormy. We had lunch there, which was lovely. And then we did the walk along the, before lunch, along these suspension bridges. There's the kayakers. The suspension bridges were quite tame. In fact, they were very well made, very stable, very secure, and we walked over those. You could climb up to the top of the mountain. A few hardy souls did that, but most of us just sat on the lookout on the right-hand side there and just admired the view before we walked back and had a lovely lunch, as I've said. The water's quite cold, probably about 17 or 18 degrees, because the next stop, looking on that view, is Antarctica. Next day, we got back in the car and drove further along the garden route past lots of very ramshackle sheds, basically, that a lot of the locals have to live in, and alongside, perhaps even on the other side of the road, palatial houses. So it's very much a place of haves and have-not. Then we went to absolutely incredible view, Gneisner Heads, and this is an inlet which you could just stand here for hours and look at the view, and there were lots of very, very expensive houses with balconies looking out onto this. It'll pull back in a minute and you'll see the full beauty of it. And you could hear the waves pounding. Then we walked along towards the inlet itself, which was only barely navigable, and you could get whale watching rides, although whales were not there at this time of the year, but extremely elemental and powerful waves coming across from Antarctica and the Southern Ocean.
So well, that's some steps and money for a bit of grass.
Yeah, well, that's all inside, is it?
Hardy souls on a whale watching boat. Then we drove down into the town itself, and it was a lovely harbour, though the harbour yachts don't tend to go outside the harbour into the sea. Lots of shops, cafes, bars, ice cream. That's the Black Pearl, apparently. So we spent a bit of time there. Then, after that, we got back on the bus, driving further along the garden route, past incredible beaches, but unfortunately we couldn't stop. But you could just sit on the beach if you were lucky and just look at these amazing waves. And I'd seen this from the air when I'd been flying east. Then we got into an incredibly rich area, a town called George, and you really wouldn't think that you're in South Africa. Very, very exclusive. Then we drove into the Karoo, drove north. The scenery changed quite dramatically, became very arid. And this is ostrich country, so there's lots of ostrich farms. And the weather was getting hotter too. We drove past lots of, not quite townships, but shanty towns with people living in nothing more than garden sheds, entire families, alongside social housing. But unfortunately, the housing was built, but there are no services, no water, no drainage, or anything of that like that. Then we drove into where we were staying, which is a place called De Rust, and it was just like something out of Midwest America or the outback. Absolutely gorgeous fairy tale place, and this is where we're staying for 2 days.
Tomorrow afternoon will the pub right across the street from the guest house be open?
This is the House Martin guest house, which again is just exquisitely beautiful. That lovely little room I've got here. Just, you couldn't imagine anything more pleasant with a lovely balcony that you could sit out, everything, even like a little bottle of sherry for you. And then you could walk down and really nothing there, just quiet shops, pubs, cafes, and it's one of the safest places in South Africa. And then I went into the Grumpy Git or Grumpy Goats pub and chatted to the locals. Lots of locals are moving out from Cape Town to the countryside because they can work from home. And then in the evening we sat with the owners and had a fabulous meal, including ostrich. And they eat with everyone every night. And it's all home-cooked food, nothing microwaved, everything fresh.